Hey, Stoney here with another game of Mechabellum. This is the final game in the best of 3 against Erik the Red. So in this case, I went with Marksman Specialist, started off with Sledgehammers and Crawlers. And my opponent went with Supply Specialist, started with Sledgehammers and Fangs. I simply added another set of Sledgehammer. I think I had enough Chaff down here as well. And my opponent went with another Sledgehammer. And he's going to use his Fan as Chaff. Alright, so interesting setup here because we both were trying to guess where the other opponent goes. But even if we guess wrong, it's not a big deal. I think I am in a slightly more favorable position because my crawlers are a little bit faster, which means if any of these crawlers were to go to the tower, they'll be able to go there a little quicker. Whereas most of his units are slower than my crawlers. So I think it's just a very slight advantage now that we're in opposite sides. I'm also engaging most of his, a small portion of his army, like a third of his army with 2/3 of my army. So that's just another small thing. Tower timing is also just a little bit better because I will be able to clear out these tanks. Well, almost clear out these tanks before he gets my tower. Alright, so this is round 1, just getting tanks over here. Alright. Round 2. Wraith is an interesting idea. He currently does not have sufficient anti-air. I went with Wraith as well. He put his Wraith right there in the middle. And I put my Wraith further on the side because I wanted to go with even more tank. Ended up going with some Fangs just to block up, kind of slow this down a little bit. The dynamic of this area is pretty great because most of my units are able to engage with his units before his unit can engage with mine. He added 2 more tanks right here, which I don't believe is correct because I have a level 3 marksman just waiting here, and these fans will be gone pretty quickly. So what that means is this level 3 marksman is going to get his money's worth for every shot. Essentially, he's going to pop a tank every single shot, and he's even going to bring down the Wraith in about 4 shots. So I'm not too sure about the placement of these tanks. If I were him, I'll probably put even more Chaff here and trying to flank on this side that well, he knows he is stronger. But let's see. Okay, so in the center is working a little better with the Wraith, but as you can see, the marksman is just a little too strong. There is no answer for my Wraith on the far end. So this was not a great turn for my opponent. Okay, so we are looking at a few very interesting choices. Extended range balls are interesting. Right now, I mean, we're in a kind of a sledge off. He's got 5 squads of sledgehammers. I got 4 squads of sledgehammers. I think I'll continue to add on to them. Sledgehammers are pretty good with chaff clear, but I think getting the balls is also pretty good. Improved fortresses was interesting because at some point I might put a fortress up front, tanking a bit more damage, knowing that he doesn't have enough damage right now. There's nothing he does can really like damage a fortress, let alone improved. Senior manufacturing was interesting too. I think my opponent took that, so I went with the improved fortress, and I actually brought in a fortress. 76,000 damage HP. So these tanks will take forever to kill this fortress, and so will these wraiths. So the goal here is for the fortress to essentially tank everything. I'm putting a cheeky crawler at the flank here, hoping that he didn't do anything at the side. There's no reason to. I think most of the time, if you're playing aggro like this, you should probably just put missiles at the bottom. If he had missiles, then just made him waste $50, which is fine. Alright, so this fortress is out. The fortress is doing damage. Let's see how well it does against everything else. I think it's really just going to come down to fortress and this marksman right here, where fortress does auto tanking, marksman does auto kill. Gets the tower, pretty easy. It barely scratched the fortress, and it's just here taking squads of tanks. Alright. Couple interesting options. Mass-produced Scorpion could be interesting, but I don't think... I mean, you can try to get mass-produced Scorpion with Acid, and just Acid, right? Because those Scorpions don't have the damage, and they don't scale that well with fortresses. But if you can get Acid onto these fortresses, then you have a pretty good chance of just DPS them down with tanks. Anything that stands in Acid, I think, takes 200% extra damage, I believe. So that's pretty deadly. He went for a melting point, and he also got a wraith to protect his flank. I think the wraith on the flank is a bit more expensive. I mean, it's $100 crawler, and you need a $300 wraith to protect it. The melting point is going to lock on to this one, which is good for him. However, I have 2 more fortresses on the side, and I don't know if that melting point has enough to lock on to everybody. What was... Okay, so melting point got onto that fortress, getting onto the last one. This degen being is actually doing a lot of work. It's really stopping my fortress from getting close to the melting point. Yeah, tower. And goes over and kills my marksman. Okay, so let's speed this up. Alright. So right now I got a slight problem. Extended range steel bow is offered again. Right now I have a slight problem, and that is melting point. You're probably adding even more melting point. I don't have a lot of chaff clear, so that is an issue. I don't have a lot of chaff in front either. So let's go and fix all of these problems together. I think first thing first, I need to get rid of these wraith. I think the degen beam is just causing a little bit too much problem. So let's get rid of them early. Let's put additional chaff in front of my units, and let's get rid of some of his chaff. Right now there's nothing here except a set of fans, so let's get rid of those. And once they're gone, I think my fortress with launcher overload should be able to walk in and just doing a lot of damage. I sold my crawlers on this side. My opponent took a loan. I'm not sure why. I think he wanted to upgrade his wraith. It is a good unit, and I think it's also going to contribute a lot for this turn. Yeah, unfortunately, the melting points are just a little too strong. And also, my marksmen aren't really shooting at the wraith, so that was a big problem. And he won a huge round here. So 2 giants and 3 wraith with a bunch of other units. So this is a big round for my opponent. Okay, so I needed a way to get rid of these melting points. I also needed something to make my units even tankier so that they can get in there. I went with the battleship and I went with the row of missiles. Now, unfortunately, he did get shields just this turn, which means my missiles probably aren't going to do too much. This melting point is very scary. It's level 2, and he put in a improved firepower control, so it's double the damage. So this is a very scary melting point. It hits like a level 4 melting point. Alright, I believe I also took speed and temp range. I think both are necessary. I think speed allows my crawlers to go a little faster. But unfortunately, these melting points are still finding their mark on my fortresses. Right, so you notice the chaff clear is simply not there. So yes, I do have a pretty good shot once the chaff are cleared, but until then, these melting points are just killing everything. I got lucky with that one because I got the tower, so he wasn't able to do full damage. And I think the mountain point should be able to take care of everything here. Oh, not the mountain point, the fortress. Okay, one more round. What can I do? Phoenixes are good. But in this case, I think Fire Badgers might have been an even better choice. I think my biggest problem was chaff clear, and Phoenixes did not contribute to chaff clear. It doesn't matter how many Phoenixes I have, they simply do not do chaff clear. I added more chaff, but they won't survive against the Fire Badgers. They also got stuck on the melting point. So this is not going to be a very good round for me. He's got Fire Badgers with range, ton of chaff. I have no chaff clear. Yeah, so this is not going to be a good round for me. Yep. And that's game. So good game to Erik. What did I do wrong? Well, first of all, final round not getting Fire Badger. I think that was a critical mistake. If I were to get Fire Badger, I think I would be able to get at least some of this out of the way. Not getting range on these fortresses is also bad. I wasn't sure, like getting the boats with the photon emission, it wasn't warranted, right? There's nothing that I really need to stop. My fortresses was doing fine on their own until it gets locked on by a melting point. So these boats were unnecessary. The photon emission were unnecessary. I think I'd be way better off with just like 3 more sets of Stonecrawlers right here early on, and then take the Badger in the end. Because once I clear all this chaff, these guys should be able to walk in and they start hitting. They should be starting to hit these melting points pretty hard. So it was a great game, great best of 3. A lot of lessons learned. And I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you on the next one.